So chapter 3 and 4 are out and the lore skyrocketed to infinity. There are moments with more lore packed in them than the entire game so far, and it looks like the mystery build up until now starts to reveal itself bit by bit. I mean, we already met and fought enemies that we thought will be the final boss, or at least very late in the story, like the Titans and especially the Roaring Knight. And we already know who they are, what are they planning, and who Kris really is. Well, kind of. Taking everyone by surprise, the Roaring Knight makes their appearance at the end of chapter 3 and throughout chapter 4. The game doesn't even try to hide it or something like that, it is directly into your face. So let's get some context first. The Knight appears and slashes Tenna because he disobeyed their will and let Kris seal the fountain. Then they tried to take Toriel, but they were stopped by our team. They tried to fight the Knight, but they were way beyond their power. Undyne appeared and the Knight took her instead. Susie and Kris chased them in the light world, and the Knight entered the shelter where another dark fountain is and locked the door. In chapter 4, the Knight opened 2 new dark fountains in the church. The moment Kris tries to come near the fountain, they are interrupted by the Knight, and throughout the chapter the team tries to catch up to the Knight, and at the end the Knight opened a dark fountain inside a dark fountain by stabbing the earth with multiple blades, creating a giant fountain and awakening a Titan. The team had to fight it, and this allowed the Knight to escape. In Gaster style, we can say that not too much happened, but a lot happened. Okay, so after all of this, what we know about the Knight? They are a lightener. Only lighteners can create a dark fountain with their will. Queen's plan was to use Noelle to create one. She couldn't do it herself, even though she is the one who told the others how to do it. The Knight also was able to leave the dark world from Kris's house and go all the way to the shelter. A darkener would just turn into a normal object the moment they exit the dark world. Kris and the Knight are working together. The Knight is very likely to be the same person that Kris talks to at the phone. The Knight might be connected to Gaster. Okay, so let's break all of this down. Let's begin with the quick one. We know that the Knight's base is the shelter, a place that is related to Gaster. Everyone knows that by now. If you speed up the sound that comes from the shelter by 666, it will start to sound like the garbage noise on the phone in the dark world and the sound from the entry 17. When the Knight appeared, a mist started to form in the room and around them, increasing in size the more the fight continued. This mist has the same pattern as the background from the start, which is connected with the narrator, who speaks in the same cryptic way as Gaster. But what really made this connection is the Knight's hands. They look the same as Gaster's hands, with a hole in the middle, only in reverse colors. Gaster is known to speak in hands, so this could explain why the Knight is so goddamn powerful. Gaster might have given this power to them. It will also explain the mist is emitted from that power. We know that the shelter was locked down quite a while ago, so the dark fountain down there is even older than the Castletown one. It could have been made by Gaster, and the fountains are somehow connecting to each other. It will explain why we heard that sound from the phone. It is connected to the shelter, the main dark world. But let's save that long and probably wrong speculation for another video. Let's see how the Knight and Kris are connected. If you're good at the game or just have the Shadow Mantle and manage to not get your ass kicked by the Knight, a different cutscene will play where the Knight knocks down Ralsei and Susie, but when they come to Kris, Kris kneels before the Knight. In the same position a person loyal to a king would do, and the sword on their shoulders means that the king recognized their loyalty and deemed them worthy to serve them, which translates pretty accurate to what happens here. Looking back, it is clear to me that this character created the 2 other fountains from chapter 1 and 2. The location for those fountains was public, so it was easy for the Knight to access them, but the Knight would not have access to Kris's house, so they made Kris open one inside their house. But for what? To enter the shelter you need 3 separate codes represented by a symbol. One is a pine cone, and we know it is related to this because there was a code inside her guitar. It's probably 1225 because, you know, Christmas Day. The other one is a police badge, and we already know that Undyne had the code. Undyne and the mayor are the only ones we know they did go there. And the last one is the Deltarune symbol. But that one is tricky to answer. Like, who could this be? The first thing that comes to mind is Toriel. She has a Deltarune symbol on her clothes, but so does everyone at the church who sings. The church is a place where that symbol is featured a lot because of the prophecy, but so far that leads nowhere. If we assume that Toriel has the Deltarune code, it will make sense why the knight put Kris to open the fountain there. Kris slashed the tires of Toriel's car so she would call the police. In this way the knight could take both Undyne and Toriel and kill two birds with one stone. Okay, but still, why would the knight want the codes? They already have access to the shelter. Well, because they don't try to enter it. They try to not let others enter. The shelter was locked so no one would interfere with whatever is down there. It is said that something bad is down there. The final location of the story. For the rest of the chapters, probably Susie and us will have to find these 3 codes. And I say us, the player, and not Kris, because Kris already has access down there. Because they're an ally, not an enemy. But who exactly is this Kris? Let's debunk an old theory. There is a popular theory that Kris has not 2 but 3 souls inside her body. Us, Kris, and this entity that acts weird and evil-ish. This theory started because we have 3 save slots and also because of the Snowgrave route from chapter 2. Kris seems to care about his friends, as we've seen before, so he wouldn't put their friends in danger by creating a new fountain and an opportunity for us, the player, to mess with the lives of his close ones, like we did with Noelle. But after chapter 4, I'm convinced that this entity and Kris are the same person. We saw both Kris and the zombie entity play the piano, something that we can do, and Kris gets mad when people make fun of him because of that. Kris is said to be a creepy kid who always messed up with others, so this behavior might not be very out of the ordinary. And if you continue the Snowgrave route in chapter 4 and manipulate yet again Noelle, Kris punches the hell out of that heart. This for me means that Kris hates when you hurt their friends. They're unlikely to be evil despite their suspicious actions. Now the big question is, who is the person that Kris is talking at the phone? Well, we don't have any confirmation, but it's pretty clearly that it is the knight. Not only do they talk about creating the next dark fountain and tell Kris to stop Susie and us to find the code in the guitar, but they also talk about some sort of police sacrifice, something only they would know. We don't know what that means, but it sounds bad at the very least. They also talk about how Kris needs a soul. Without a soul he cannot do Dark World something. Probably he cannot enter a Dark World without a soul, or he cannot survive without one in general. But why does Kris lack a soul? Is this new because of us, or Kris always had this problem? Or did Gaster created us just to inhabit Kris to enact his plans? The zombie-like state would also explain the lack of soul, or maybe Kris cannot close a fountain without a soul. I mean, we are the only ones who can do it with that heart. There are too many questions about that, so let's save it for later. So the phone person is the knight and Kris is their ally, but who exactly are they? Well, we only have 2 candidates that will actually fit. First, let's go to the less likely one, which is death. A very interesting feature that the knight has is antlers. They have the same shape as those of the Holiday family. Noelle and Rudy are definitely not the knight. The knight also shapes their sword from a wiffle bat, something that Des used in the past to beat up Kris for lying to Noelle. Also, this ball form looks like a ginger bell, and the Holiday family is tied to Christmas. Des is either dead or missing, so it will explain where she was all this time, inside the Dark World in the shelter, a place where she could stay hidden, and even if someone managed to enter it, they would not recognize her. Maybe the codes for the shelter were added and spread around so nobody would find her, so she could do her own stuff and plans. But we don't know nothing about those or any good reason to do all of this. I mean, of course we know close to nothing about this, but I would assume that if she could just come into the light world, she would reunite with her family and especially with her sister that she cares so much about. Because of this, a better candidate for being the knight would be the second option. I am 95% sure that the Roaring Knight is the other person with antlers. Noelle's mom, Carol. If the person at the phone is the knight, then the answer is quite obvious. I doubt that the majority didn't get this connection. You would only miss it if you don't pay too much attention at the game. When Susie took the guitar from Kris, they no longer could get it back because Kris doesn't want to be seen by anyone in this state. They need to remain a secret, and we, the player, definitely want to see that code, so that was not an option for here. Only the knight knows about their true identity and about the soul. Maybe Ralsei as well, but he doesn't matter right now. So Kris had to call the person and told them that Susie has the guitar, and that person said that they will be right there to deal with the problem. We can't check who was Kris talking with because Kris deleted all the contacts and phone calls, but that person knows where they are and has access to the house. And moments later, what do you know? Noel's mom shows up. Hours before she normally would be. And in the moment she sees Susie, she takes the guitar and kicks her out of the house. But when she sees Kris, she apologizes for the scene and tells them that they are always welcome there. With you written in all caps and red, meaning she is talking to the real Kris and not us. She knows who we are. So there is no way the phone person is not her, and it is almost guaranteed that the phone person is the knight, meaning Carol is the knight. Everything connects, from the appearance to how much she knows about everything. Just listen how scary the music is when she is presented, same as the knight. She is one of the 3 peoples that has the code, and as the mayor she would have access to a lot of stuff and no one would question what she is doing. I mean, we already know that she has been there. The only thing that doesn't make sense is how a middle-aged woman could carry someone like Undyne from the very top of the map all the way to the very bottom and outrun Susie while she carries her. The only person that would be strong enough to restrain Undyne would be Asgore, and does really anyone really thinks that he has anything to do with any of what is happening in general? Not even his wife, goddamn! Maybe Carol made Undyne unconscious before they left the Dark World and she was too far ahead to be caught by Susie. She is a child after all. Despite everything, I don't think she's evil. We know that she is tough on Noel, but that may be because of what happened with Des. Other than that, everyone tells us that she's a decent to nice person. Her husband is a nice and cool person. Her family used to come to Kris's house and spend time together. She even funds Asgore flower shop because otherwise he would have closed it. He doesn't sell too much. Asgore even tells Susie that she is a nice person when you get to know her. And with Kris being her ally, I doubt that they will want to destroy the world. We saw how much Kris cares about Noel, and we know how much they care about Susie. Often they start to be themselves and overpower our will around Susie, even if it's just small things. Like when they started to play the piano when she asked them to do that. Okay, but the knight did hurt them and awaken a fucking titan that they had to fight. Well, both of them knew that we the player had the power to stop it and also heal back. Again, they are the only one who knows about their existence, except maybe Ralsei and Gaster. Maybe they needed to do all of this for something. I don't think they will literally sacrifice Undyne. If that was the case, Kris would not let her take Toriel. So what these two have in common to make them work together? What Kris promised her and why? To answer this, I want first to look a bit at an old popular show named Gravity Falls. Spoilers if anyone even cares. In the show there is this old guy named Stan who hides a big secret from everyone, including his family. He has a secret lab under his house and his grandkids started to realize that he knows more about this strange world than he lets on. The kids discovered that he had multiple identities and how he was powering up a machine that will destroy the planet if it was activated. So they thought he was an evil guy that wanted to destroy the world, but in reality he did all of that messed up things for his family. He used the machine not to destroy the world, but to bring back his long lost brother from a different dimension due to an accident that happened 30 years ago. He was not an evil guy. I bet something like this could happen in Deltarune. Both Kris and Carol would want to bring back Des. Her disappearance or death could be Kris's fault in some way, so he promised to help Carol bring her back. They do all of these fucked up things not for the sake of evil, but to bring a loved one back. Toby doesn't do the evil for the sake of evil person, there is a sad story behind it, like in the case of Flowey. Unless you play Genocide, in that case you are just a horrible person. But how would they bring Des back? If we assume she is missing, she could be trapped somewhere in the dark world, and they created these dark fountains to find her. They don't know where she could be, or maybe she is in the shelter, but they also need a key to free her or to reach a certain place that they don't have access to it. They don't care if creating this many dark fountains would mean awakening the Titans as long as they can bring back Des. They probably assume that we will take care of that. Without a soul you can't close a fountain after all, and we are literally a soul. But it would be more interesting if Des was dead a long time ago. In chapter 4 there is a book that talks about monsters' dust. When they die, their dust will spread over an object they love, and their soul will exist inside that object. Now the question would be, what if you bring that object with someone's dust embedded on it into a dark world? Well, we already know the answer to that, because in chapter 4 we meet the old man Gerson. His dust was attached to a hammer and Alvin kept it in his room at the church. He took the hammer from the graveyard. When a dark world was created inside the church, he was brought back to life as a darkener. So what if Carol and Kris tried to do the same with the guitar? After Des died, her dust could have attached to the guitar. It is the only object we know that is directly tied to her. Carol and Noel are very attached and careful with that guitar. That's why Carol was so protective of it in chapter 4. But if it was that easy to just bring the guitar into a dark world, why they didn't do it already? Well, first of all, in this special case, there is a condition for it to work. They will appear only in a specific dark world that is tied to what they love. So maybe Carol and Kris are opening all of those dark fountains in hopes that in one of them Des will come out. But I think that would not be enough. If that will really work, Des will be trapped into a small world without being able to come home in the light world. Should be the same as a darkener there. So what if they actually want to merge the two worlds together? In this way they can be reunited and live together again. This would definitely be something bad that would awaken the Titans and would harm everyone. It would sound a bit like the Roaring event Ralsei told us about, and the night is literally called the Roaring Night. But despite that, they are willing to take the risk to get Des back. So how are we gonna stop them? The reason is a noble one, it is not evil, it's for love, but still, we can't let that happen, we can't sacrifice everything just for Des. We know from the prophecy in chapter 4 that the team would have to sacrifice something in order to save the world. Des will definitely be sacrificed in this case because they will stop them, but we also need to sacrifice something. Something that Susie doesn't even want to think about it, something that she and Kris would not let happen. Well, we are not sure about Kris, but yeah, probably they too. Maybe they will have to say goodbye to all the darkeners and close all the fountains to stop the night. They will kill every darkener, including Ralsei. Also, in order to beat them, I bet we will have to use the shadow crystals in some way. We know that in the dark world the crystal shows things for what really are, like seeing the light world from the dark world. So if we create something with all the crystals that we got along the way, we can make a weapon that will make someone to lose their dark world form and return to their light world form. In this way they could easily stop the night. In chapter 4 they knew they couldn't beat the night, so the plan was to close the fountain while the night was still there. In this way they could see who the night is. The shadow crystals could do exactly that, but better, because they could still have their powers while the night will remain powerless, and in this way they would easily manage to defeat them. But the crystals are secret content, and I doubt that we will not see the knight's true face, or we wouldn't beat them at the end of the game. So maybe we will use them against someone even more powerful from the dark world. Maybe against the mastermind behind all of this, Gaster. But I already reached a bit too far there. So the main idea is that Kris and Carol tries to make Des come back, even though if that would mean to connect the two worlds or to create as many dark fountains as they need in order to make Des come back. And more crazy things are about to happen. Chapter 4 was like 10 hours long. I assume chapter 5 would have the same length or even longer because it is a single chapter release. and 6 and 7 will probably release as the conclusion to the game. But for now, thank you so much for sticking all the way to the end. If you enjoyed the theory and want more Deltarune content just like this, like and subscribe. It helps out the channel and allows me to make more videos. I plan to do a full story explain for what happened so far in the game, so if you're interested in something like that, we will see each other again here on YouTube. If you have anything to correct or add about what I said in this video, I will be in the comment section to continue the theory there. Have a nice rest of the day and be sure to remember that Sans will become our fucking stepdad.